Yeah. The format for this meeting is a 10-minute speaker, our secretary's announcements, a coffee and snack break, and our main speaker. Our first speaker tonight is Joe.
Let's take a seat. Thanks, Joe. Have fun.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Joe. I'm an alcoholic. I wasn't planning on being a 10-minute speaker tonight. I just kind of got railroaded, but that's fine. I try and do anything I'm asked to do in AA, and being asked to be a 10-minute speaker is really an honor. Get a few things out of the way. Do I need to be closer? Sorry. I've been sober since October of 2000. I have a sponsor named Frank. He knows he's my sponsor, and I sponsor a few gentlemen. But really, I'm sponsoring who's ever sitting at the table with me working. It really doesn't matter anybody's name other than that. I came to AA after drinking all my life, and I'm not lying. My dad owned a bar when I was a little kid, and one of my first memories was standing underneath the keg with my brother pulling down on the keg and trying to drink. That was the family I grew up in. My family is almost completely Irish, but there's that 25% American Indian straight off the reservation. So I'm an alcoholic. Who'd have thought, right? The problem with that thought process is everybody who needed to stop drinking in my family was able to stop. Everybody. All of my uncles, my grandfather, when it was his time, they were all able to say, okay, I'm done. Not me. I had to say, okay, I'm shaking too much. I can't make it to work. I had to do other things that could allow me to go to work while I drink. I got to a point where I was drinking a bottle of whiskey every night, doing other things to go to work the next day until finally I broke. Now, I broke probably 6 years after I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. But I remembered being sent to AA from a DUI, and I remembered somebody pointing at me in a newcomers meeting saying, I used to think just like you. And I was like, who is this guy talking to? He's talking to me. I got up and ran out of that meeting at the end when it was time to hold hands and pray. I ran away from that club. We're from, us group that came out here tonight are from the 502 Club in Covina. I ran away from that club, jumped over my truck. I had to step on my ice chest that had beer in it, did like a Bouduc over the hood, took off to my favorite bar, went home with the bartender that night, came back the next morning to get my truck, thinking my beer would be gone, and the same people that I thought chased me out of the meeting were standing there watching me come in, and I'm like, what is with these people? What's wrong with them? Got my truck home, angrily ready to pull my ice chest out. My ice chest was still full of beer. And I'm like, okay, this is good. That was the last time I was ever going to do AA until I broke. And when I broke, I knew there was somewhere to go. So I want to welcome the people that stood up and introduced yourself tonight. I'm telling you, this place will change your life if you're willing to do the 12 steps that are on the wall. And if you're willing to put your hand out or do whatever you got to do to ask somebody to help you get through those steps. I don't drink a bottle of whiskey every night, and you could consider that a miracle. I am married in a very happily loving marriage. You could consider that a miracle. I don't have all these other obsessions running my life. That can be considered a miracle. But the biggest miracle I have is I got here godless. And I believe the 12th step, it doesn't say having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. It says as the result. I never understood that when I was working the steps when I was new. I had no clue that they were trying to give me a spiritual experience. They were trying to introduce me to a higher power that could solve my problem. All I knew is these people that did the steps didn't drink anymore, and I wanted to be like them. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So I followed the direction I was told, which is why when they asked me to be the 10-minute speaker tonight, I was like, okay, no big deal. Because that's what I was taught in AA. Do what you're asked. Help who you can. Talk for 10 minutes when it's time to talk for 10 minutes. But somewhere along the line, I want to say in year 3 or 4, I was always asked to do a 11-step prayer and meditation meeting, and the group of people I did it with would always say, 11-step is not extra credit. You have to do it daily. And being a godless person, I had no clue what that meant. I didn't know what it meant to pray. I didn't know what it meant to believe in God. I believed in the group. I believed in what my sponsor and his sponsor taught me, and I believed if I did that, I would stay sober. But I was doing this 11-step meeting for a little over a year, and things started changing. And people started looking at me going, look. And I was like, why are these people like, am I self-centered? What's going on? And what I was told had happened was they were starting to see a light come on in my eyes. I didn't understand it, but I would share. In this meeting, we would have to share about our experience doing the meditation and prayer. And I guess after going there for a certain amount of time, people started understanding that something I didn't understand. I was starting to get this power in my life that I swore to my sponsor could not happen. I didn't say would not, I said could not, because I physically can't believe in God. When I got here, that's what I believed. Somewhere around year 3, maybe year 4, I'd never put a time on it. I get in my car to come home, and I know if I get on the freeway, I can make it to a 5 o'clock meeting in time. I know if I don't turn right to get on the freeway, I go straight, I can still make it to that same 5 o'clock meeting, but I'm going to get there at about 5:15. And I went straight. But as I'm driving, I'm starting to have this conversation in my head, and a lot of people might think I was going a little crazy because it was, I'm asking questions, I'm getting the answers, and I'm just having this conversation. And I drove past where I turned right, and I said, well, I wonder where we're going. Kept going, kept having this conversation, get over the hill, come down into the valley where the 502 Club is, and as I'm driving, let me back up a little bit. On my 4th step, anybody that lived on the street called Workman, I had a problem with them or their parents. For some reason, I hated this street. It goes right through Covina, and I hated it. And I hated you if you lived on Workman. Okay, I have problems. But that particular day, I see Workman, and I turned right, and I'm like, oh, wonder what we're doing now. I turned right, and about 200 yards ahead of me is a guy that usually works behind the counter at the Alano Club in Covina. And this guy is severely dyslexic, and he's got an old flip phone open. He's crying, and the hood of his car is up. He's obviously broke down. And I pulled up, and I rolled the window down. I had to crank it down in a Jeep, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm here to pick you up. I think I'm supposed to pick you up. And I get emotional every time I talk about that because it was the first time in my life I felt and understood what all you people who had felt and understood it before told me was going to happen, whether I wanted it to or not. If I did the 12 steps to the best of my ability, it was going to happen. And it happened. And I told him I'm supposed to be here to pick you up. And you know what he told me? He'd been praying since right around the time I got off work. And he prayed for her, and I obviously wasn't her, but I would do. He got in the Jeep. I took him to the club. He got behind the counter to do his job, and we became good friends up until the day he died. I learned a lot from that man. I learned a lot about humility, and I learned a lot about what God is and what God isn't. I shared what happened back in the meditation meeting, thinking that these people are going to be like, hey, I got it. And they're like, we know. We've watched you get it. You're the last one to figure it out. That, to me, is the essence of a spiritual experience. And you don't have to believe it's going to happen. If you just try hard enough, if you don't want to drink and you work the steps, it will happen for you too. And what happened is I got this power that can solve the problems in my life. One of those problems is once I start thinking about alcohol, I drink it. Once I start drinking, I can't stop. Well, when the thinking starts, the power takes over, and I don't drink as long as I keep doing these steps. That's all I got. Thank you.
You have your glasses?
God granted us with the serenity
I cannot change.
things I can, and
Wisdom to know the difference.
our main speaker will share his or her experience strength, and hope with us. Please join me in welcoming whoever-
Jackie, come on up. Come on up, Jackie.
Great,
Happy birthday.
thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jackie. I'm an alcoholic. It is so good to be here. Oh, my gosh. I want to thank Kelly for asking me. I want to thank this beautiful Ro here who took me to dinner. And then I walked in and I saw all these friends from Covina, and I could just start crying. You know, I always say I'm a blessed, abundant woman, because I really am. But when I saw these people, they surprised me. I did not know they were going to be here. And I just like, oh, I love you guys. They go, we love you. And I'll tell you what I was thinking about. I was thinking about the story in the book, one of the stories, it's called The Keys to the Kingdom. And at the end, I don't know the exact words, but what she was saying is suddenly found a host of new friends, self-respect, no more loneliness anymore. And that's what I thought of when I saw these. Oh, I just love you guys. Thank you. Thank you. And I am abundant. And, you know, that's a long ways from where I came from. You know, I go speaking around a lot, and there's some Alano Club that I spoke at, and I don't know where it's at, but it was a while ago, but they have something written on the wall. And it says, I may not be what I want to be, I may not be what I could be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be. And when I read that, I mean, I felt it. It went right through me. Yes, thank God I'm not who I used to be. And when I walked in the room, I thought of that too, about my host of beautiful friends. And I just love you guys so much. What it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. As I said, today I'm abundant and blessed, but it wasn't like that. I came from a family, we moved from Memphis to Cleveland, and my dad, when I was 4 years old, went to the store for cigarettes and never came home. I never saw him again, so I have no idea who my dad was. And my mom, who was uneducated, didn't have a job at the time, had 3 small children, and, you know, she had no family or anything because we had moved from Tennessee. We knew no one. My father went to the store for cigarettes and never came home, so what was she going to do? She got married, because in those days, that's what they did. You had to get married to have somebody help support you. That's what you did, and unfortunately, she married a full-blown alcoholic, and he was mentally and physically abusive, and I hated him. I mean, as a kid, I don't ever remember not being afraid of him. I didn't want to go home when he was there. I was that afraid. And I hated my mother, because my mother stayed with him for 15 years. And I couldn't understand why. Why did she leave him here to do what he would do to us? I just hate her. And you know, in the book it talks about alcoholics are incapable of forming a true partnership with another human being. And I believe that was so true for me. I mean, I had no idea how to form a true partnership with another human being. Even when I was grown up and I had children and my family and other people, I had no idea. I was well read. I loved reading. I loved school. I was very accomplished in school. I always had good jobs, but I had no idea how to be connected to you. I was always out here somewhere feeling lost and empty, even though I tried everything to not feel that emptiness. I went to churches. I was in little theater. I mean, I did everything I could do to just be out there, you know, and it would be like everybody thought I had all this confidence, you know. I could go out there and do that. And then I would go home and I would sit there, and it was like this little kid inside me going, can't someone help me? Can't someone see what's wrong with me? You know, I went to 31 psychiatrists before I came into the program. Yeah, I spent a lot of money on that. I could have bought a lot of booze with that. But, you know, like I said, I was a good student. I went through school, and my only goal at that time, we didn't talk about college. We didn't talk about anything about schooling. We worked. I got my first job at 13. I was a switchboard operator, the old kind, you know, with the cords. Yeah, I'm that old. Yeah. I worked at that. I always worked. My only goal was to get out of that house. That's all I wanted, because I just could not stand the pain and the fear. But it's really odd, because even though there was a lot of abuse in our home and I had a lot of fear, It was like it talks about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I was more like Sybil. I had 16 personalities, but, I was born an optimist. And I don't know why. I have no idea, but I was born with this inbred thing that something would tell me it's going to be better. It's going to be good. It's going to get good. And I would tell my mother, who was not an alcoholic, she was a manic depressive, and I would tell my mom, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And she would say, you're going to see the world's going to beat you down. Men are going to abuse you. The world is going to abuse you. And I would always say, no, Ma, it's going to be okay. And I believe that, and I don't know how. The other thing is the child that I had that I don't know why I had, but we never went to church. God was never spoken in our home. And yet, whenever the violence got too bad, I would go outside and I would lay down in the grass or sit on the sidewalk and I would look up at the sky and I would just talk. I would talk to something I didn't describe, I didn't have to name, but somehow I knew it was listening to me. And I don't know how I knew, but it always gave me great peace. And it was like that until about 5 years before I came into the program. So the only thing I wanted to do was get out of that house. And so when I graduated from high school, I got a job, of course, and then my sister introduced me to a man, and he was 24, I was 19, and he was going to take me out on a date, my first date with an adult guy. I didn't know he was an alcoholic. And our first date was to go to a bar and see his ex-girlfriend, the belly dancer, dance. And I should have known it was not going to work out too well in that, but so we go to this bar. And we walked into this bar, and of course there was smoke and laughter and music and dancing. And in a split second, I was changed because I loved it. I loved the smell of it. I loved the people laughing. I loved how it took me away from my life, that I could pretend this was what I would always tell my mother. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It sure looks like it's okay in here to me. And then he gave me a drink. And when I took that drink, Jackie, as I knew her, was changed forever. The Jackie I knew, what I could have been, should have been, wanted to be, was gone forever because I loved it. I loved the booze. I loved how it tasted. I loved how it burned. I loved how it went on my throat. Burned everything all the way down to my stomach. I loved it. And the best thing about it was I loved what it did for me. It took me away from reality. Even though on this side I had reality. I had a great job. I was still doing things, reading books and going to these seminars. But over here, I did not have reality. I had this in my head, it's going to be okay. And yet deep down inside, I thought, well, is it? Is it really going to be okay? And it was a constant battle with me that I don't know, but I would always tell everybody, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. So I ended up marrying that guy, the guy that had the ex-girlfriend as belly dancer. In 1970, we got married, and he was a full-blown alcoholic. I did not know that. So he would go to his bars, and I would go to my bars. And we would do what people do in bars. And he was a creepy kind of guy. I know I hate to say that, but he really was creepy. I know that's awful, but he would go to these dark bars and he'd have his glass of 7 and 7 on the rocks. And he would just stare at the people. And it was that icky stare, and turn the glass. Me, I'd be in the discos and dancing and having a good time and doing things I probably shouldn't have been doing. And then I would come home, and because I had that fundamental idea of God deep within me that I didn't even know that that's what it was, I would wake up the next morning and I would feel guilty. I would feel this shame, and I would go, why am I doing this? I don't understand. I started going to my first psychiatrist at 19 years old, and they always told me it was my stepdad, it was my mother, it was what happened to me as a little girl. A lot of things happened to me. That's why. In fact, years later, I was sitting at a bar with a friend of mine, and we're sitting there drinking, and I was drunk as usual. And I said, do you think I drink too much? And he goes, no, your life sucks. I go, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. But that's what I believed, because when I went to these psychiatrists, they didn't say anything about alcohol. I was so shut off and so much in denial that I never even mentioned alcohol. Alcohol was so natural to me. It was my longest companion until I came into the program. It was there for everything. It was there when I was afraid. It was there when I was happy. It was there when I wanted to go to sleep. It was there when I needed to get up, It would be on the headboard all the time. I had a drink all the time. And when I was 3 years married, I thought this marriage is not going to work and I don't know what to do. And I thought, I know, I need to have a kid. If I have a baby, I'm going to be okay. And I believed that. I really did. I wanted this baby because it was going to help me be better. I was going to be a better person. I was going to help this marriage. And I had my son, and I was in the hospital, and I was holding my son in my arms, and I'm looking at him, and I said, I make a vow to you today, right now. I vow to you, you will never come from a home like I came from. And I meant that. I meant every word. I wasn't lying to him. But see, alcohol was already my longest companion at that time. And I came home, and 6 months into my son's life, I was already out in the bars because my husband was out in the bar, and I started getting that attitude, oh, no, you don't. You're not going out there and having fun, and I'm here. I'm going out. And, it was just this vicious cycle. Wake up, go to work, come home, take care of the kid, go to the bar, drink. It was like I was this gerbil on a wheel. I couldn't break it. I could not break it. And I wasn't even trying to break it, actually, but it was just happening. And anyway, so that went on for several years, and I was just seeing more psychiatrists, and I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, and I was feeling guilty. And I thought, by the time I was 25 years old, I thought, no, you know what, I need to do something. I can't do this anymore. And the thinking that alcoholics have, that the lies become the truth. We don't differentiate which is the truth and which is the lies. I thought, I know if I have another baby, I'm going to be a better person. I know it. And I believed it. I believed it. If I have 2 babies, I'm going to be okay. And I didn't love him at all. I didn't, I just wanted to be different. It's really funny. I just wanted to be somebody different. And if I was a mother with 2 children, I was going to be different. And so I had my daughter. Well, nothing changed. Same thing happened. 6 months into her life, I was already back out into that bars and that vicious thing. And the thing that I was getting, it was that self-hatred, that embarrassment, that shame. I was having all that stuff, and I just couldn't. I had to drink to forget what I did when I was drinking. It's just this vicious cycle. So I ended up divorcing that man. And when I was a little girl, when I was living with my father and my stepdad and my mom, I was always afraid. I was afraid to be alone. I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid of what you thought of me. I was afraid nobody was going to take care of me, and here I was always the one that was always working. Every time I got married, which I did a few times, they'd quit their job. I'd be the one working. I don't know how I did that, but yeah, they'd quit their job. But anyways, so I'm 25 years old. I'm playing softball for a VFW. We had double headers on Sunday morning, and I would go with my 2 kids, and after we got done with the baseball game or softball game, we would go to the bar, and my kids would be playing around on the dirty floor with the other kids, and we'd be drinking all day long. That's what I do every Sunday, and I thought that was normal. Isn't it normal? They're doing it, I'm doing it. And in walks this man, and this man's name was Joe, and he looked just like Don Johnson, the original Miami Vice guy, Don Johnson. And I thought, oh, wow, I don't need a family like with the first husband. I need Don Johnson. If I have Don Johnson, I'm going to be different, man, So he walked in with that white suit and that gold chain, and he sauntered in, and I said, I need him. I ended up marrying Joe. And, I wanted to be different. I was going to be different. This time, it's going to be different. That's insanity. And all the time we're drinking. He was an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic. I did not know I was an alcoholic, though. I thought I was drinking of what you did to me, what my stepdad did to me, what all those other people did to me. I really believed that. And, we got in a few months after we were married. What I realized was he was just like my stepdad. He was my stepdad all over. And he started abusing my kids and me, just like my stepdad did. And I went, my God, what have I done? I don't know what I did. How could I do this? That marriage only lasted a couple years, and that's because he said he would go to work if I bought him a truck. And so I bought him a truck, only once I bought the truck and he left with it, he never came back. So I paid on the truck for 2 years, and I never saw him or the truck again, And I thought, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And the only thing I know how to do is run. I was working 3 jobs at the time. I was at a bank during the day. I was a cocktail waitress at a disco at night and a bartender on Saturdays, 88 hours a week. And by that time, my ex the kids were living with him. And now I'm alone. And I can't go home because I'm afraid of the dark. and I don't want to be alone. And so I was just running. I got on a treadmill, and I was running 100 miles an hour. I don't know what I was running to or running from. I was just running. And I ended up at that Saturday bar. In walks a guy named Al. Now, Al, he was a jokester. He could tell jokes. Now, I told jokes for 3 hours one time at a party without repeating one. And he could keep up with me. So I thought, oh, and he was a dancer. Oh, God. That's what I need. I don't need a family. I don't need Don Johnson. I mean, what woman doesn't want a guy that does jokes and dances, for God's sakes? That's got to be the one that's going to be for me. And we started doing the bar scene. They knew me at the Holiday Inn and the Saturday bar. And we would walk in and they would say, "It's Jackie and Al." And we'd go, "Yes, thank you. Thank you very much." I was famous in the bars, man, But I would go to work and I'd be all dressed up. You would never know that's where I was hanging out, at these dive bars. And, we had a good time for a long time, but he started taking cocaine. Now, I know, Now, I never tried cocaine. Now, I smoked a little wacky tobacco for 20 years. And I drank every single day. And I took sleeping pills to go to sleep because I was up all the time. I had to fall asleep for a little while, taking pills. But I don't take cocaine. I can't do that. I'm better than that. And so one day he comes over. It happened to be on Veterans Day. He comes over and he's drunk. And I had the day off because I worked at a bank. And I said, "You know what, Al? I can't do this anymore. I know you wanted to get married, but I can't do it. I'm breaking up with you. I can't do this." And he goes, "Oh, no, you're not leaving me." And I go, "Yeah, I've got to do it. I've got to change my life. I've got to do something different." He goes, "No, you're not going to leave me." I go, "Yes, I'm done." And all of a sudden he kind of cocked his head and looked at me and said, "It's over?" And I go, "Yes, it's over." And he got up, he walked into my kitchen, pulled out a drawer, pulled out a knife, and stabbed himself to death. And the last words to me were, "I effing hate you." And in that moment, in that split second, Jackie, as I knew her, was never going to be the same. Because in that moment, nobody hated me as much as I hated me. And you would think at that time that I would say, "Oh my God, look where my life's going. My kids are not living with me. I'm living in bars, going from bar to bar." I don't know what it is. Well, years later, this is quite ironic. Years later, when I was sober at 50 years old, I went and got my master's in marriage and family therapy. And but I took a class on battered women's syndrome. Because I was a battered woman, my mother was a battered woman, and I wanted to find out why we stayed or why we kept doing it, not for men or women. And there's a syndrome where you are pushed down so badly and told you're stupid, you're dumb, you're no good, you'll never be any good, which my stepdad did, which all the husbands I had did. And it's called learned helplessness. And that's why they don't leave, because they believe they're abusers, But I believe in that moment I had learned hopelessness. And something came to my head that my mother said, "You're going to see the world is going to abuse you, men are going to abuse you." And I started saying, my mother was right. There is no hope. And when you have no hope, which a lot of alcoholics, I believe, they get to a point where they go, "Well, this is who I am. I'm never going to change. I'm never going to be any different." And so you start acting like that. Even though I dressed up in my Liz Claiborne suits and I went to the bank with my briefcase, and then at night I was over in the dive bar. In fact, I had gone from fancy hotels where the bank would send me for hors d'oeuvres and happy hour to be with clients and, sit at the bar like a lady. Now I was walking to Al's Pub across the street from me where Toothless Joe was and Budweiser Bob and, and here I am in my suit and I'm laying in the bathroom, in the women's bathroom with holes in my nylons. And that's where it had taken me. But I always got up and I always put back on my suit and I went back to work. And, somehow I was able to do that, So I was working at the Saturday bar again and in walks another guy. And this guy's name was Dan. And Dan lived in Cleveland but moved to Tucson and then came back to Cleveland just for a short job. And he would come in every Saturday night. And we started talking and everything. And I went, "Oh, that's what I need. Tucson. That's where he lived. I need sunshine. Cleveland has is the second city in the United States with the least amount of sunshine. Tucson has one of the most. So if I go to Tucson, I'm going to be different." I had no idea that wherever you go, there you are. You cannot hide from yourself. You know, when I was on that treadmill running, I was running away from me. You know, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where I was going. I was just running away from me, of who I had become and who I was becoming more. And so, but I ended up marrying Dan, and we moved to Tucson, and I brought my daughter with me. My son stayed in Cleveland, and for 6 months it was great. It was really, really good. But Dan was abused as a kid. He was a child of an alcoholic. He never drank, but he was very vicious. And 6 months into being married to him, he had custody of his 13-year-old daughter. My daughter was 8 years old. I didn't realize his daughter hated my daughter hated his daughter, he hated my daughter hated him, I hated his daughter hated me. Yeah. And I said, oh my God, I've done it again. I've done it again. What have I done? So here I am in Tucson, you know, I'm working at a bank, I got a good job, but it's the same home thing. It's the same solution for me. I had 2 jobs, he had none. You know, my daughter ended up going back to Cleveland because I was never there. I was either drinking or working or running. I'm running emotionally, I'm running in booze, I'm running physically, just running. I got to get away. Don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to get away. And so I ended up divorcing that man, and here I am. It's 1993, and I'm working at a bank. I'm pretty successful. I'm making pretty good money, but I am drinking every single day. I'm living in a basement apartment now where it leaks. I go home at night. Like I said, I sit there with my half a gallon of vodka on my lap. And one day in 1993, I was looking in the mirror, and I thought, oh, my God. How did I get here? What happened to my life? I don't know how I got here. I tried so hard, and I had no idea. And that half a gallon of vodka was on my lap, and I had no idea it was the vodka. None. You know what I thought? I'm just a piece of garbage. I'm destined. This is who I am. Now, my sister's from the same home, the same abuse. She's been married 58 years to the same man. Huh? And my brother's been married 49 years. They still live in Cleveland in the same neighborhoods they lived. I've lived in 5 states, you know, and I'm the alcoholic. Same abuse, same everything, but I'm the alcoholic. Did not know that. And I'm going to get sober because I love my life. Like I said, I'm an abundant, blessed woman. And so, you know, here I am living in this basement apartment. I'm working for the bank. I've got one of the largest portfolio. I worked as a construction lender, and I was called into the president's office, and he said, I would like you to go to Sierra Vista. There's a big subdivision coming. I want you to see if you can get the loan, and I want you to take this young girl. She's on the other side of Tucson. Never met this girl before. She's 23. I was 43 at the time. So you know how old I am now, and old. And so we go on the sales call. We make the call. We get it, of course. And so I go, we got to celebrate. So we go out to lunch, and we're sitting there, and I'm drinking my vodka martini. I go, oh, you want a drink? And she goes, no, I don't drink. I wouldn't drink on my lunch hour. And I go, oh, well, do you think I drink too much? She goes, I don't know. I don't know you. And it's really funny because my God left a lot of breadcrumbs on the way to Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of them was this young girl. Because she goes, I don't know you, but you know what? I have a friend, and he goes to this place called Alcoholics Anonymous, and he hasn't drank in 18 years. I go, why? I didn't get her point, you know? And, you know, she said it's at 445 on Ina Road, and he hasn't drank in 18 years. And you know, I guess I put that back in my mind. I didn't even think about it, you know. And so what was happening is I was really going nuts. I was having panic attacks once a month at least, maybe twice a month, going to hospital with severe panic attacks. My heart was beating too fast. I was a mess. I showed up for work every day, but I was a mess. I was drinking every single day. By this time, I had gone to 30 psychiatrists trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Like I said, I figured out I'm just no darn good. And I thought, I need a psychiatrist. Well, first, what I started doing was joining churches. I joined 7 different churches. I thought if I go to church, then I'll be different. Then I'll be okay. And, you know, I went to a Methodist church because they have good music, and I would sing. Oh, that didn't help. And I went to a Lutheran. They were structured. You know, I went to all these different churches. I even went to a Pentecostal church. Yeah. Whoa. And, yeah, I mean, I was trying everything. I didn't even know what I was trying for. I just needed somebody to help me. My soul was gone. I absolutely had no moral fiber. I had no soul left. And I had a God my whole life. I loved God. I mean, I always had a connection with this God that I didn't have to name, I didn't have to describe. I always had him, but that was gone. It was gone. So I had nothing left inside me. I was empty. I was a vice president at a bank by this time. I'm making good money, and yet I was so empty inside. And so I called my HMO, and they had never, ever done this before, but I guess they were used to me. And I called and I said, I need a therapist. And she said, we have this new thing. She goes, do you drink? And I always said the same thing, a little. And she says, well, I want you to go to Tucson Alcohol Council, talk to the therapist, you take a few tests, she'll say something to you, and if she thinks you're okay, you can get a therapist. And I go, okay, no problem. And so I went on my lunch hour, and I drove over there, and she gives me this test, and I go, oh, look at it, I'm doing so much better. It says, do you drink less but get drunk faster? I didn't know my liver had stopped processing the alcohol. I had no idea. I had no idea that that's why I was having panic attacks, that I was ending up in the hospital. And so when she came in and she kind of read that, and she kind of asked me a couple of questions, she put her pencil down, and she goes, I just want to let you know you're in the chronic stages of alcoholism. And I said, what? No. I have a job. I have a car. I can't be an alcoholic. And she said, yes. And she goes, but what we can do is we can send you to Tucson out to treatment. And then you go for 16 weeks, outpatient. You go to some AA meetings. And, it'll help you. We pay for it. But if you miss one, we're not going to pay for it. You have to pay for it. And I go, oh, no, I'm too busy. I can't do that. I'm too busy, sitting in my basement apartment, watching myself in a mirror with half a gallon of vodka in there. And she goes, you're too busy to save your life? And I go, no, I'm really busy. And so all the way home, I'm thinking, chronic stages of alcoholism? No, I'll fix them. I'll just find my own psychiatrist. I'm making enough money. So I go home, I go in the phone book, I find this psychiatrist. She's right down the street from me. And I make an appointment, and I go in, and she asks me a few questions. And she says, well, I just want to let you know something, another breadcrumb from my higher power. She goes, I'm in recovery, and I won't treat anybody that's actively drinking because it's not going to work. Do you actively drink? And I go, a little. And, and she says, well, in order for me to treat you, I want you to go to one AA meeting a week. Just try it. Just go to one AA meeting, come back and let me know what's happening. And I don't know why, but I said, okay. And so, I went to the first meeting. It was a Saturday morning meeting at an Alano club. And there's a guy speaker meeting. I'm sitting there smoking my cigarettes. This is in November of 1994. And I'm smoking these cigarettes. And no, I'm sorry, this is still 1993. And I'm smoking cigarettes. And he's saying he lived in a dumpster. He ate out of garbage cans. He had 10 DUIs. And I went, I got a job in a car. I'm not an alcoholic. So I go back and I tell her, I'm not an alcoholic. And she goes, well, go back next week. So I went back next week, and I thought, oh, well, maybe, but I don't know. So for 8 months, I said, I am, no, I'm not. I am, no, I'm not. I am, no, I'm not. For 8 months, I would do that. And then when something magical happened, I came home, and I went into my basement apartment. I walked in, and I stood in the middle of my living room floor, and I was done. I was so empty. I had absolutely nothing inside me, nothing. I had no answers. I had no questions. I was done. And I literally fell to the floor, and I started sobbing. I couldn't stop. I mean, sobbing. And all of a sudden, I just screamed at the top of my lungs to a God I had long thrown away. I said, please, God, change me. I didn't say help me quit drinking because I still didn't know, believe it or not. I said, just change me. I don't want to be this person anymore, please. And I fell asleep crying. And then I woke up the next day like I always do to go to work. And I took a shower, and I'm still crying, sobbing. I thought, how can I go to work? I can't stop crying. But I did. I put on my suit and my briefcase, and I went to work. I canceled all my appointments. I shut the door to my office, and I just sat there and sobbed. I was lost. I really had no idea what to do. And all of a sudden, a young girl's voice came to my head from 8 months before that that said, I have a friend. He goes to a meeting at 445 on Ina Road, and he hasn't drank in 18 years. Another breadcrumb. And all of a sudden, I got up, I walked into my boss's office, and I said, Fred, I think I'm an alcoholic, and I'm going to an AA meeting. And he goes, okay. Everybody knew but me. And so, you know, at 4:30, I got in my car and I'm driving, and in Tucson, the sun shines all the time. And I'm driving up Ina Road, and I could see the domes of this Episcopalian church. And for some reason, I could take a deep breath that I hadn't done in years. But I heard on this shoulder, you're never going to laugh, you're never going to dance, you're never going to sing, you're never going to have sex. Not that I was singing or dancing. And on this shoulder, I heard, I just want to be different. I just want to be different. I don't want to be me anymore. And so I walked into that meeting, and I sat way in the back, and I was all crumbled up, you know, and sobbing, disturbing the meeting, just sobbing. And all of a sudden, it was as if that God that I had as a little girl, that I didn't have to name or I didn't have to describe, put his hand on my shoulder and said, it's time. And I went, oh my God, I'm an alcoholic. And in a split second, Jackie, as I knew her, was never going to be the same. Because in that moment, I had conceded to my innermost self exactly who and what I was. And concede means to surrender to the truth. And I had surrendered to the truth. And the strange thing about that was I heard everything you said. And I remember somebody saying, you never have to live that life again. And, you know, I was 44 years old. It was November of 1994. And I went, I don't? I was shocked. Educated, you know, reading books, and I was shocked. I really thought I was destined to live that life. And then I heard somebody say, you never have to take another drink if you don't want to. In fact, you don't have to take another drink again if you do want to. I went, I don't? I was shocked. But I fell in love with you guys. I just fell in love with you guys. I went to meetings every single day. That was the 445 on Ina Road. I loved it. I loved the people. You know, Maya Angelou says, you may not remember what people say, you may not remember what people do, but you will always remember how they made you feel. And that's what I remember going to Alcoholics Anonymous, is people giving me their phone numbers. And, you know, I went to 7 different churches. It didn't help me at all, you know. And I couldn't believe. I just couldn't believe. Something was gone inside me. And yet I believed you. I believed you. I believed what you said about your stories, because a lot of your stories I could go, I've done that. Yeah, I've done that. I've been there. I've done that. I felt that. And there's something about looking at somebody in the eyes and saying, I know what you feel, because I've done it. I felt it. I've been there. And I was changed forever, you know, and I loved Alcoholics Anonymous, and for 3.5 years they called me Happy Jackie. And I still have that name, by the way. And, you know, I did the steps, you know, but I want to tell you, 5 years before I got sober, my stepdad called me when I went to visit my family in Cleveland. And he called me and said, I'd like to take you to dinner. And I go, oh, you kidding me? I hate your guts. And he goes, I just want to talk to you, please, just for a little while. I just want to talk to you. And I go, no, I hate you, and I will hate you to the day I die. He goes, free booze and dinner. I go, okay, I'll come. And so I went to meet him for dinner. And I had my vodka martini in front of me. I didn't even notice he didn't have a drink in front of him. He wasn't drinking. And he started telling me about his life and about how sorry he was. And I go, sorry? You think that matters? No, it doesn't matter. I hate you, and I will hate you to the day I die. And all he kept saying was, I understand your pain. Is there anything I can do to make it better? And I go, no, there's nothing. Nothing. And I don't know how long we were there. I was pretty drunk when I left. But the last words I said to him were, I hate you, and I will hate you to the day I die. You know, I had done the steps, and I had gone all the way through the 8th step, and I was changed. I was changed after the 4th and 5th step. I didn't realize I was going to be transformed by the 9th. And, you know, I had to make amends. There were some, but I had on my list, there's the 3rd column. These I will never make. The 1st column is I have no problem making amends there. 2nd one, maybe it'll be a little difficult. But this 3rd column, no way am I going to make amends. And he was on there. And I was sitting in a 9th-step meeting, breadcrumb, and all of a sudden it was like that God put his hand on my shoulder and said, it's time. And I went, oh my God, he was making amends to me. And I was able to call that man, and I was able to say, I understand. I didn't say everything you did was okay, and don't worry about it. I said, I understand, because I had become him, in many ways worse. And I wanted to be different. And I heard an expression that the most Forgiveness is the most, forgiveness is the true path to freedom. And I knew that. And with that third column, I had asked God for the willingness to forgive. And believe me, when I would go back to Cleveland, we would go to AA meetings together. He would introduce me as his daughter. I wasn't his daughter. And he would sit there and sob. And I was transformed. And in that moment that I was able to forgive him, I was able to forgive my mother because I learned she had learned helplessness. And I did not know. She knew no better. I did not know that. And when she died, I got to lay down next to her when she was in a coma and say, I love you, Mom. I understand. I understand your pain. You know, and these transformational things that had made me such a different person. I loved AA. In 1997, a couple things happened. I was, I'm Happy Jackie, and I don't want anybody to think I'm stupid or weak. And I don't want anybody to think I have problems, because I'm Happy Jackie. And so there were a couple of secrets I had. I was having some problems at 3.5 years of sobriety in 1997. And I was going to have surgery. And I couldn't tell my sponsor. I couldn't tell my friends. Because what would they think of me? Because I'm Happy Jackie. I can't tell them that there's something wrong and I can't handle it. So they gave me Vicodin. I took the Vicodin as directed the first day. First hour, actually. And then I had none left. And the next day I had a friend who was in a car accident, and I remember walking in his house and thinking, I need 2 Vicodins. I need a couple of Vicodins. And I was walking down that hallway and I heard, don't do it, Jackie. It's not booze. Nobody's going to know. Don't do it, Jackie. Oh, come on. I mean, you had surgery, for God's sakes. You're fine. I walked in the bathroom and I took those 2 Vicodins. And I went to the meeting the next day, and somebody called me, Happy Jackie, I'd like to hear from Happy Jackie. And I said, I love my life. Everything's really good. No, I have to change my sobriety. And everybody, well, Happy Jackie? And so my new sobriety date is 7/11/97, so I have 26 years. I'll have 27 years in July. And in a split second, I was changed forever again because I had reached a new level of honesty. I had reached a new thing in my program. How could I tell my sponsees to tell everything, to be truthful, and me not do it? And so I learned another. I have so many lessons. I just have to say a couple more things. When do I have? 8 minutes. Okay. Okay. So I did everything with AA. I went to International Convention in San Diego. I was secretary. I was GSR. I loved my life. And here I changed my sobriety date. But also in 1997, there was a man in our meeting that actually was from California. He had a condo in Maui. He lived part-time in Maui, part-time here. He was from California. And then he would live part-time in Tucson. And I saw him at meetings, but I never really thought about it or anything. And so it was October of 1997, and he comes to the meeting. He asked me out on a date. It's such a long story and such a love story. Anyway, he had 27 years of sobriety. I had 4 months. And 6 weeks later, we were married on the beaches of Maui. And I'll tell you what, for the first time in my life, I had a true partnership with another human being. We both loved Alcoholics Anonymous. We started the 615 at the 502. We went to meetings every day. We had sponsees. We traveled. We went cross-country 6 times. We went to 4 international conventions. I mean, this is the girl from the projects. This is the girl that hated herself, couldn't look in the mirror. And here I am with this life that has been so freely given to me because of you. I mean, it's unbelievable. So we were going to the International Convention in Atlanta. We picked up his sponsee and his wife. They were following us all the way out to Georgia. We get to Georgia, and there were all these people from California, Maui, Minnesota, where he was from, Cleveland, where I was from, Tucson, and they were just gathered around him because he had 46 years of sobriety at the time. And everybody loved him, and we just unbelievable. The people, I was given the keys to the kingdom, for sure. I knew that. And one day I walked in and he was sitting on the floor next to a door that the meeting wasn't open yet, and he was crying. And I said, Don, what's the matter? What's wrong? And he goes, look at our life, Jackie. Look at our life. because of Alcoholics Anonymous. Look what we have been given. You know, one of the greatest gifts I have received from Alcoholics Anonymous is a profound awareness of the gift I have been given me, of sobriety, of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am so grateful. That's why they call me, I really am happy, Jackie. I'm so aware what a gift I have been given. And so I sat down next to him and I cried. And, you know, we ended up, we drove to Washington, D.C., because that was on his bucket list to take me to Washington, D.C., because I'm a history buff. And we went to Smithsonian's and just an incredible. And then we went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, because he's the biggest Dodger fan ever. And so that was on his bucket list because he had gone there 35 years before, and he wanted to go back one more time, and he went. And then we went to Cleveland to visit my family. It was my sister's 50th wedding anniversary at the time, and my whole family was there. All the amends were done. My daughter, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, you know, my sister's kids. It was we had never done that before. It was the most amazing experience I had ever had. And we were dancing, and we were just having a great time. And he was listening to the Dodgers, 6 minutes? 5? He was listening to the Dodgers on the radio, of course, or his phone. And he goes, look, they won. They got a home run. And I go, oh, that's good. And all of a sudden he looked at me and he said, I feel dizzy. And he fell in my arms. He had an embolism to the heart. And in a split second, my life was changed forever again. And I was lost. I felt lost. I didn't know what to do. I really felt like a newcomer. I really felt like something had shattered inside me, and I did not know what to do. And his friend from Tucson flew to Cleveland to drive our car back to California. My friend flew to Cleveland to fly with me home. That's the kind of people that I meet in Alcoholics Anonymous. And, you know, I got home and I was a crazy person. I sat on my bed every day and rocked like a crazy person. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You got to help me. I don't know what to do. And finally, I had to go to a meeting, that 6:15 meeting that he started in 1981. And I sat in the parking lot for a while, and I asked God, okay, please help me go in. But, you know, I was sobbing. And I got out of the car, and all of a sudden I heard somebody say my name. It's Jackie Babb. And they all threw down their cigarettes, and every one of them lined up, and every single one of them hugged me. And then I walked into the meeting room, and every person in the room stood up, formed a line, and hugged me, and sobbed with me. And when I got to the last person, we were sobbing together, and it was Errol, by the way. And all of a sudden, Jackie, as I knew her, was changed forever. Because what I realized in that moment is everything changes. Everything changes, you know? We grow older, we get sick, we pass away, we get married, we have children, you know, everything changes. But what I realized holding that man who was holding me with my grief was that the only thing that's never changed in my life is Alcoholics Anonymous. The steps don't change, the principles don't change, the concepts don't change. And if you're in the middle of the fellowship doesn't. And you carried me every step of the way. And I made it through, and I did what you told me to do. I answered every sponsee call that I got, even though I was so tired and I was just crying, but I answered every call. I was secretary of a meeting. I still showed up for that. I was a speaker at 3 conventions, and I went to those. I spoke at them. I ugly cried from the podium. But that's what you taught me to do. You taught me to be of service. You taught me to stay in the day, do the next indicated thing, and be a maximum service to the people around me. And, you know, when Don and I got married, we got married on the beaches of Maui. There was a song that was our song. It was called The Gift from Colin Ray. And the one line that I love the most is, you gave your love away. I'm grateful every day. Thank you for the gift. And I thank you for the gift of my life. I thank you for showing me there's a different way. And I love you for it. And Natalie Cole, at the end of her movie, she was a drug addict, alcoholic. She said, I have been given the grace of God. I may not deserve it, but I'm not going to waste one moment of it. And neither am I. Thank you.
Does that mean you're single? I'm just saying.